Some say we're better off after President Trump's executive order on immigration, also known as the Muslim ban.
We'll discuss whether they're drunk or sober when we return to beer and politics.
You know, Betty White really is the greatest Golden Girl. Choosy parents choose Jif. He's so mean. He really is. Hey Ryan, are we out of partisan again?
Welcome to another episode of Beer and Politics. We are your hosts, Ryan and Ryan.
Today we're going to be discussing President Trump's executive order on immigration, also known as the Muslim ban. But as always, before, we're going to discuss some beer. So today we've got Asylum.
Nice.
From San Clementi's own Left Coast Brewing.
Awesome. San Clementi's in California, if you didn't know.
Yep. Now this beer is a Belgian-style triple ale.
Oh.
And what that means is it's definitely going to be on the sweet side. They call it a triple. That's in reference to the amount of malts. So they end up with a lot of alcohol. This one here, that's right. This one here is 11.8%.
Holy
so
cow.
you're like, yeah, you're not going to drink too many of these.
No, you're not going to drive.
Yeah, not because you don't want to, but because you can't.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
What we got? It's definitely sweet. Yep. It's not hoppy to me at all. It's not thick. It's really nice. It's a nice style of beer, in my opinion.
Yeah, it really is. So this sort of beer, like you said, it's not hoppy. This does not have a lot of hops in it. And the thing is, even if there were a decent amount of hops in it, there's so much malt, you wouldn't really taste it. So it fits the style pretty well for a Belgian triple. Another thing like that, like a delirium. That's another kind of Belgian triple. It's kind of a beer like that, but it's. I actually do get some kind of toffee flavor in this thing.
Okay.
Maybe just a hint.
I was going to ask you. It has a distinctive taste. So to say it's not hoppy and it's not like a stout is to really leave you with not knowing what the heck it tastes like.
Right.
And I actually can't tell you. I mean, I've had triples before, and it tastes like a triple to me. But it's just really nice. It's really velvety on the tongue.
It is.
It definitely has a flavor that I can't really adequately describe. I don't know if that's toffee.
Well, there's a lot of sweetness flavors.
It's just a bunch.
Here's the thing: if you don't like a sweet beer, or if you don't like something that's on the sweeter side, you're not going to like this.
And you can tell, I think, that it's Belgian-y.
Yeah, the yeast strains are going to be a little different, so it has that kind of twinge of flavor.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's good.
I like it a lot.
Yeah, it's a tasty beer.
I'd like to say I drink 5 of those in a row, but that's probably a bad idea.
We all know that's not going to happen.
Exactly.
So if you're ever in San Clemente, stop by Left Coast Brewing.
Yes, thank you, Left Coast Brewing. They did not sponsor us, but they did allow us to buy the beer so we can taste it in front of you. Yum. All right, Madam Brewmaster, give us our talking point. We know what it is, but we want to hear it anyway.
Some say we're better off after Trump's executive order on immigration. Drunk or sober?
Yeah, so I have this at a drunk, and it's a BAC north of 2, because I really can't find anything to substantiate the idea that we are better off because of this. And please bear with me, I might have pneumonia, so I'm going to cough and hack through some of this and clear my throat an awful lot. So one of the things that we want to point out is we're not asking, are we safer? Right? Because humans are willing to give up some level of their humanity and their morality for just a taste of safety. So it's not whether or not we're safer, it's really whether or not we're better off. Is what we're giving up worth what we're getting? All right, that's a cost-benefit analysis. So in order to do that, we got to quantify some things. First, we got to quantify the cost, and the cost is the death of the refugees. Some number of people are dying because they can't get here right now, right? Included in the cost is also this idea that Americans can't see their loved ones because they're either detained or stuck in another country, as well as non-Americans who are in the same situation. So that's the cost. Now the benefit, we generally say, is the safety, but it's not. It's the how much more safe are we? right? Are we
Yes.
safer?
Right.
Not just are we safe, because we had some level of safety, we assume. So in order to figure that out, we got to quantify a few other things. We got to quantify how safe we were before the executive order, how safe we are after the executive order, and then we got to measure the difference, because that's the safer. That's the thing we're trying to get. So how safe were we before the executive order? Well, the sad news is they don't know, we don't know, and we didn't ask. We have no idea. So I'm going to help you break it down. People are dying, by the way, and we didn't bother to ask if we were already safe. All right, so let's break it down. First of all, you have a 1 in 45,000 chance of dying in your lifetime from any sort of terrorism. 1 in 45,000. Now, that doesn't sound huge, I'm thinking to you, so I'm going to put it in perspective, because it is huge. It means it's very unlikely. So in perspective, you have a 1 in 30,000 chance of dying accidentally from a sharp object, or even an animal attack, which I'm sure we're all afraid of. You have a 1 in 3,200 chance of dying from any force of nature. 1 in 3,200. You are 200 times more likely to be straight up murdered than dying in a terrorist attack. You're 300 times more likely to die from falling. I don't know what you're falling from and what into, but you're going to die. 300 times more likely to die from falling. You're more likely to die from Alzheimer's, from diabetes, from stroke, from cancer, from heart attack. More so than from a terrorist attack. And also, you have a 1 in 46 million chance of dying from a refugee. You're more likely to die from an asteroid slamming into the Earth than by a refugee in your whole lifetime. All right, but let's talk about the actual scenarios we're worried about here, which is how likely as an American are you to die on American soil from a terrorist attack? What's that likelihood? So since 2001, on average, 6 Americans die each year on American soil from a terrorist attack. 6 out of 330 million. 6. But that's not really the stat we want either. We need to be more specific. We need to know how many people on average die, so how many Americans on American soil from a terrorist attack perpetrated by someone that is not from the United States and is not a citizen. And since 2001, on average, 1 American will die in that scenario each year. 1 out of 330 million. But that's not even the scenario we're really talking about here.
Okay.
The scenario we're really talking about is, what is the likelihood that an American will die on American soil perpetrated by a terrorist attack where the guy was from, or gal, is from somewhere other than the United States, is not an American citizen, and more specifically is from one of those banned countries. And since 1975, that's never happened. That's 0. 0. On average, 0 people will die each year in that scenario. And why is that, you might ask? Because we're pretty safe. Why are we so safe? Because we actually have a vetting process for refugees and anyone really coming to America. We have that. But we have these agencies, if you will, that help protect us. We have, first of all, our military. We have the DOJ. We have the CIA. We have DHS. We have CBP. We have ICE. We have TSA. We have DEA. We have the Treasury Department. We have FinCEN. We have the State Department. We have local law enforcement. All these people working together to keep us safe from terrorism. But you didn't know, you didn't ask, and people are dying. But maybe you're thinking, maybe Trump knows something we don't. Well, yeah, he might. But you didn't know, and you didn't ask, and people are dying. So maybe you think maybe we'll be significantly safer. So yeah, let's admit, we're safe. Between 0 and 1 of us are going to die this year in that scenario. So, but maybe we'll be significantly safer after this. Well, that's statistically impossible. There's no such thing as significantly safer between 0 and 1.
Right.
Right? You're not going to be significantly safer. So maybe you think, well, you know, the government, they're good at stuff. They're going to put together a good process for us. This is the same government, mind you, that we don't think can manage our budget, that we don't think is taking adequate care of our vets, and that we don't want to administer our health insurance. But they got this wrapped up. This is the process they got in place. We're not even going to question it or ask how they're going to do it, why they're going to do it.
And you're also, 300 times more likely, you said, to die from a health-related issue?
Correct. Right. The things we should be worrying about,
Right.
We don't want the government to deal with.
Right, because they can't.
Correct.
Okay.
But we're going to let this one go, and we're not going to ask any questions. Meanwhile, as we're discussing, people are still dying, and we don't know answers to anything, and we didn't ask because we don't care. So you might say, well, where were you when Obama was doing the same thing? And where were you when he was letting Christians die? The Syrian Christians, he was letting them die, I've heard. Well, let's start with that. Letting innocent people die now because of anything Obama did is not a Christian thing. It's unchristian. That's not a Christian value to just let people die because of something Obama did. The simple answer to where was I is it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter where I was. It doesn't matter if I supported Obama. It doesn't matter if I'm a hypocrite now. The only thing that matters is that I'm trying to do the right thing. And that's the only thing that matters in any situation, is that when you're given the opportunity to do the right thing, you do the right thing. Listen, I asked my kids, what would you say to someone who said, well, you supported somebody who did something horrible 10 years ago, and here's a guy doing it now, and you don't support it now? How can you be such a hypocrite? You know what my kids said? They said, I guess I'd say, I'm sorry, I know better now. I know better now. How is it possible that kids understand the idea of knowing better now and doing the right thing? And by the way, if you're Christian, the doing the right thing is called repentance. It's turning away from the thing that's bad and sinful towards the thing that's right and good.
It's pretty big.
Yeah, it's a big deal. And my kids understand this, and you don't. Let me reframe it this way. What would you have done if the executive order was to repeal the Second Amendment and remove all the guns from our country? How would you have reacted? Well, I can tell you, you would have at least asked a question, right? You would have said, why, how, what? You would have demanded justification and a compelling argument, and at the end of the day, you still would have said, over my dead body for my cold, dead hands. And we're asking nobody to die in that scenario. Nobody dies in that scenario. Listen, this is not an impassioned speech for refugees. Because if I'm being honest with you, I think about the refugees about as much as I think about any other stranger in my life. Which is to say, I don't think about them that often. And that's wrong, and I probably should. Actually, I'm going to say I definitely should. But this is an impassioned speech against the willful ignorance and laziness of the American public in supporting an executive order that needlessly lets innocent people die without justification and, in fact, excusing it. Next round.
That was very good. I liked that.
Thank you.
So I also put this as pretty drunk.
Okay.
It's hard to narrow it down. It's definitely one of the more drunken things that we've come across. I don't know that it's the most, but it's certainly up there. So again, I would say north of 2, 0.2. And here's the thing. I see only 2 ways that you can support this ban.
Okay.
First way, you are either scared or lazy, or some combination of the 2 of those things. And I think most people fall into that category. I'll come back to that one in a minute. The only other way that you can support this ban is if you're a piece of shit. And I want to be clear, I don't mean that you support the ban and so you're a piece of shit. I mean you're a piece of shit and so you support the ban.
Okay.
Let me break it down. We as humans have some evolutionary tools that we use to survive. And one of the most powerful of those is community, working together. And if you don't think that's, if it sounds weird, just think about what happens when you meet a loner. You think, that guy's really weird. And it's because it's so deep within us that we work together and we have this need for community.
Sure.
So if you're a genuinely good person, if you're nice, if you treat people well, you probably have a decent amount of friends. They'll invite you out to things, they around because you're a pleasant person to be around. Even if you're not very smart and you say some stupid things, maybe things that are accidentally racist or unintentionally mean, people are probably going to give you a pass because you know what? He's a nice guy. He didn't mean anything by it. He's just not very smart.
Right.
But if you're a piece of shit, especially if you're a dumb piece of shit, when you say those things, people aren't going to want to give you a pass. They're going to be like, get this guy out of my house. I'm tired of being around him. He's a piece of shit, right?
Right.
So you don't have that core need of humanity met within you. So when you stumble across something like Breitbart, you realize, oh my God, there's so many pieces of shit out there just like me. And you get that thing that you've been missing. This core need of yours is finally met. This sense of community, people who think like you and who are just like you. So when a person in power comes to you and says, we have problem X, and here's the solution. And the solution plays perfectly into that moral compass, or immoral compass, you could say.
The piece of shit compass.
Exactly. It plays right into that. Why would you try to find a reason to make that not the case? And why would you try to overturn that core need that's finally been met?
Yeah, makes it okay.
Right. And the answer is you wouldn't, because you're a piece of shit.
Okay.
So, the other scenario, which I think most people fall into, you're scared or you're lazy or some combination thereof. Now, fear is also one of those primal drivers. It makes us want to act. It makes us want to do something, and it shuts down cognitive thinking because it's fight or flight. It's not fight or think a lot or flight.
Right.
It's just one of those two. Now, you as a person have probably not been affected personally by a terrorist attack in long enough that you should probably be able to think about things at this point. And that's where the laziness kicks in. You need to have some kind of mental curiosity.
Sure.
And if you don't, I've done some legwork for you.
Ooh.
So,
do tell.
Is it a ban? Is it not a ban? Does it target Muslims? Doesn't it? Well, we know that Trump campaigned on banning Muslims.
Sure. He considered a Muslim registry.
He did. He considered a registry. So, okay, but that just sounds blatantly unconstitutional, right? So is this the same thing, or is it not?
Good question.
So what we can do is we can ask Rudy Giuliani.
All right.
So let's hear what Rudy has to say.
Make sure he's near your microphone.
When he first announced it, he said Muslim ban. He called me up, he said, put a commission together, show me the right way to do it legally. I put a commission together with Judge Mukasey, with Congressman McCall, Pete King, whole group of other very expert lawyers on this. And what we did was we focused on, instead of religion, danger.
Okay. So we're going to give him the benefit of the doubt here, right?
Are we?
We are.
Okay.
So take this. He says, we're not focusing on religion, we're focusing on danger, right?
Okay.
Okay, so all right, let's focus on danger. I think Ryan's done a really good job of hashing out where the danger does or doesn't exist, and what I mean is that it doesn't.
Right.
Let's still give him the benefit of the doubt.
Okay.
So the danger doesn't exist, but maybe we just have a really good track record. Maybe we got lucky. Because I've heard people say, we can't just let anyone in. We need to stop this so we can figure out what's going on. This is so we can figure out what's going on.
Okay.
So do we know what's going on? And you kind of talked about it a little bit earlier.
Okay.
But I've got a little bit more information. I did some more legwork for you people out there who are just lazy.
I hope you're excited. I am.
So, first of all, we want to know what a refugee is. Because this is what we're talking about, really.
Sure. Yep.
It's someone who's outside of the United States, is of special humanitarian concern, and demonstrates that they were persecuted or fear persecution due to race, religion, nationality, political opinion, or membership in a particular social group. They're not settled in another country, they don't have a home outside of another country, and they're admissible to the United States.
Okay.
It's also important to note that if a refugee has incited, ordered, assisted, or otherwise participated in the persecution of any person on any of those grounds, they are not admissible to the United States. And now, as far as like you're a refugee, or you want to be, and you say, hey, I want to go to the United States. So you just go to the embassy and you say, I'd like to be a refugee.
And they just let you in?
Yep. Turns out, no. You actually have to be recommended by the United Nations or by a third party who is previously vetted by the United States government as someone who is allowed to recommend refugees.
Okay.
So you have to be recommended before you're even considered. Then the consideration starts. It starts with interviews from the State Department, from the National Counterterrorism Center and Terrorist Screening Center, the Terrorist Watch List. You're checked against TECS, which is Department of Treasury, Interpol, DEA, Health and Human Services, and the FBI, the National Crime Information Center Wanted Persons File, the Immigration Violator File, Foreign Fugitive File, Violent Gang and Terrorist Organization File, and Interstate Identification Index. Now, this is just the first section. All of these parts have biological scans. You need fingerprints. They look at your money records if they can find it. That's before there's the security advisory option, where these people work together and discuss if you are who you say you are. They interview people you know, if they're around. And all of these people are trained on refugee law, grounds of inadmissibility, fraud detection and prevention, security protocols, interviewing techniques, credibility analysis, and they're trained on your specific country that you're coming from and applying for refugee status from. And after all of this, there's more review between all of the agencies again to make sure that your story checks out, and it still checks out. Oh, by the way, if you're Syrian, if you're from Syria, you're under extra scrutiny on top of all of this stuff because we recognize. And then Customs and Border Patrol they screen you before you leave the country and right after you get to the United States to make sure you're still who you say you are. So we don't just let anybody in. Also, this process, average of 18 to 24 months.
Oh, wow.
So we're not just letting anyone in, right?
Is that hard to find?
Oh, no, and that's the sad thing. It took me about 5 minutes to find that.
Wow, 5 minutes.
That's a lot of effort. Now, with all of this information, we know that the danger is minuscule. It's far less than other things we don't consider to be dangerous.
Correct.
We know that we vet these people relentlessly, and maybe that's why we have a perfect record from these countries since 1975. So, if your position is, we need to find out what's going on, if you want to believe that they're doing this to put in place a better system, that doesn't really hold much water. Maybe it's just about what Trump said it was about.
Shall I read you the statement? Donald J. Trump is calling for a total and complete shutdown of Muslims entering the United States.
What was that from?
Oh, that's from when Donald Trump was running for president.
Okay.
So maybe we just look at it for what it is, and we call it a Muslim ban. And you know what? Also,
well, that was the intent. Whether or not they worked around it, with legalese is up to the law to decide. But the intent was a Muslim ban.
Certainly. And let me tell you, I have never heard people work so hard to prove their candidate hasn't followed through on a campaign promise. Never seen it. It's crazy.
That's funny.
And I've just got one more thing. And that's a message to the Christians out there. If you're a Christian and you support this ban, you are the worst hypocrite there is. You demand that people in the government respect your religion and your right to practice it however you see fit. And then you ask them to use religion as the means by which we revoke safe haven from people fleeing war. You use this guise of practicality to absolve yourself from any moral responsibility and hide yourself from the misery and the unneeded suffering that's a direct result of your complacency. You preach love and you preach compassion, but you support a candidate and a policy that shows none of those fruit. One day, won't answer to us, but one day you will be called to judgment. And if the Lord asks you, when I was the stranger, did you invite me in? Did you love your neighbor as I loved you? What are you going to say? That you were lazy or that you were scared but it felt good? I can only hope that the Lord is as merciful as you are indifferent. Last call?
Cheers.
Cheers.
Well, thank you, everyone.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe.
Tell a friend. Share.
Write a comment.
Ask a question. We'll give it a shot. Give us a topic to speak on. We'd be happy to do that too.
Sure.
All right. Till next time, it's just beer and politics.
Beer, politics. That's good beer.
It is.
Yep.